Okay, why should you open a bank account? You need a bank account for a few reasons. Number one, you need to have an account if you're going to save money, to save for an item, to save for a purpose, such as buying a house, buying a car, something along those lines. But you also need a transaction account, which we call a checking account, and you would need that so that you can keep your funds safe and yet have access to your funds to do transactions, to pay bills, to buy gas, to buy groceries. So you really need to think of accounts in one for transactions like a checking account and one for savings to keep money stored away, saved away for the future, for a future need. To open a bank account, you would need several different pieces of documentation. You would need a social security number or an individual taxpayer identification number, a passport number, and country of issuance, an alien identification card number, or some other government-issued identification number.
I'm just going to interject. It is important to know that these are not items that we come up with that you need. These are federally mandated that in order to have a bank account, you have to have proof of identity, and a tax ID number, social security number, picture ID. Those are what we require, and the government requires to have that.
Right. It's also a good idea to bring a bill, a utility bill or a rent bill with your name and address on it. And it's also a good idea to bring your birth certificate if you can.
Usually, most banks, most financial institutions will require one primary ID, meaning like a driver's license that has your picture, a passport, something that has your picture, and your address has to match. If it doesn't match because you've moved, bring a copy of a lease or a rental agreement or a mortgage statement, something like that, that can prove your place of residence.
So in addition to those items that you would bring as your identification, you would need to bring in an opening deposit. Each bank has a different requirement. Our bank requires $20 to open an account. So you would need to bring in a deposit, bring in your identification, sit down with a new accounts person, and we plug all that information into the system and get you to sign the documentation for that account.
It's also important to know, like, some accounts require you to have more money to put into it to open in order to avoid fees. So, if you're looking for just to start a basic account, you may only need $20 to open the account, but you want to know what the fees are with any kind of account before you go signing on a dotted line saying, I just want a checking account with a debit card. That's a lot. We get a lot of people that will come in and just say, I just really want a debit card. Well, that is an account, and although it may seem like it's just a place for you to hold your money, there are fees involved. So you have to really get all the information before you pick which account you want. Don't just go in and sign up for a checking account. Know the different types. Because depending, like I'm over 50, so a 50 plus account is good for me because I get free checks, free cashier's checks. Those things cost money. So if I don't have to pay for them, that makes my life a lot easier. So just ask questions of what are the benefits of that for you.
So, and that alludes to, in the packet, the types of accounts. So you want to, as Fran said, determine what type of account you want, what best suits your needs, to have the minimum amount of fees, the best circumstance that will accommodate your lifestyle. Do you want to earn interest on it? Do you want to just save it for a later time? Banks offer also interest-bearing checking accounts in addition to savings accounts that earn interest and money market accounts that earn interest and certificates of deposit that earn interest. We have those types of products, and we also have checking accounts that don't earn interest, but the money is going in and going out as you need to use
Right.
it.
It could be an account that just has, you're just literally putting your payroll in and you're using that to pay for your food, your gas, and all that. And you may transfer a certain amount over to a savings, but it really, think about what you're using it for before you sign up for it. You have to know what your needs are before you pick your account.
So let's just say you go and you want to open a checking account, that transaction account to use to pay your bills, buy your gas, buy your groceries. That checking account, it has evolved. Nowadays, a lot of the younger people, some people that aren't so young, they don't want to write checks on that account anymore, and they just want that debit card to use. Because our debit cards, as most banks do, have the Visa logo on it and is part of the Visa system. So that debit card acts like a debit card or a credit card, although it debits the amount from your account. But the person or the customer just uses that card to do all their transactions and have very little need for a check. However, you can get checks on the checking account, and a lot of people still do. And in your packet, it gives you a very descriptive diagram of how to write a check. There are still some businesses that don't accept debit card payments, so it's good to have that knowledge of how to write a check, what each part of the check stands for, what you need to put on the check.
Another important thing, just to interject, on the check you write who the check is to and you write the dollar amount. But on the next line, it's called the legal line. You have to write out the amount. If you were to go cash that check, those two need to match. If they don't, they'll go based on the legal line. So sometimes somebody will come in and say, the check will say $2,050, and they wrote $2,000 and didn't write the $50. Well, we'll just have to go by the $2,000, even though the check may have said $2,050. So we always go by the legal line. So pay attention when you're writing a check to make sure it's written out in the number line and the legal line. Or if somebody gives you a check, double check the two. You want to try it?
So, as Fran said, the parts of the check are very important and they all have to coincide. And again, we do have to go by that written out amount. If people get paid by checks for their payroll, the bank has to make sure whoever that check is made payable to has signed the back of it exactly as that check has been made payable to. If it's made payable to Joe Smith has to sign the back of it.
Right. So if that check is made out to Joe Smith and Joe Smith gives it to Sandy Smith, and Sandy Smith says, I'd like to cash this check, we can't cash that check because it's not written out to Sandy Smith, it's written to Joe Smith. Oh, but that's my wife. Doesn't matter, you have to pay it to Sandy Smith. Or if you and Joe and Sandy have an account together, you can deposit it into a joint account, but you can't cash it.
We also have to check the date on the check. If the check is dated for tomorrow, the bank cannot cash it. If the check is dated for a year in the past, the bank can't cash it. It is what's called a stale dated check. We would instruct the person, the customer, to go back to the issuer of the check and give another check to replace it with a current date on it. So the way a check is made out is very important, those pieces of it.
Using debit cards. Debit cards allow you to make purchases. It allows you to take money out of the ATM. It also allows you to make purchases at a store using the Visa logo or just your PIN. It's very important. There is a lot of fraud on debit cards. You know, if you lend it to a friend, or you lost it, or you left it in the ATM. It's very important that think of it as cash. Even though you have a debit card, and you think, okay, well, it's not cash. Think of it like cash, because somebody could find it and go food shopping or clothes shopping or on Amazon. So be very conscious of that. Also, with the debit card, some people will say, oh, I saw these vitamins online. It says it's $25 or whatever. And they didn't read that fine print that says by buying that, you're signing up for 1 year's worth of $100 a month pills. So be conscious of when you're buying something online, of what you're buying, and read the fine print.
So when you do set up an account and you get a debit card, In addition to that, you will probably, the customer will want to sign up for online banking. And that is done very easily at the bank website. You go into the online banking tab, and basically you just answer the different questions to sign yourself up. Your name, your address, your social security number, your account number. Once that's done, you would also, and what is very, very prevalent now, is an app, a bank app that goes on your cell phone. After you are enrolled in online banking, you would want to download the banking app so you can have that ease of just pushing on that little icon and bringing your account up immediately. So when you write a check and when you use this debit card, you want to make sure you're checking your account often to make sure it has gone through for the right amount, making sure your balance is what it should be, making sure you're taking into account all your transactions so that you don't overdraw that account, so that you don't spend more money than is in the account. That's very important.
What happens a lot is it's important to keep a journal of what you're spending. We find many people don't do that, but keep a journal. You have $1,000 in the bank, and you wrote a check for $250. Okay, so take you only have $750, but they looked at their app and they said, "Oh, I have $2,000." They forgot that they wrote that check, and next thing you know, their account's overdrawn and they've gotten a fee. So be conscious, and that's one of the first things we do, especially when I'm opening accounts for younger kids that are just starting. I say to them, "Here's a journal. Write everything down, because when you go and buy that, dollar soda at McDonald's, write it down on your debit card, because it's coming out of your account. It's not free." So it's important to do that, because I've seen accounts get overdrawn by $1 and then you're going to get a fee. So you really want to make sure you write everything down.
That leads us into the next part in the packet for overdraft services. Banks do offer overdraft services, and they come in many varieties. At Shore United Bank, we have something called basic overdraft privilege, where every depositor gets some sort of amount that is based on their deposits that they're allowed to overdraw. We strive to pay everything up to that amount, which could change daily, but because it's based on your deposits. However, if the item is paid, you're still charged $35 an item.
Because technically we're lending you that money to pay the item, so we don't lend for free, we charge you. So if you have $500 in your account and you wrote a check for $550, we'll pay that account, but we're going to charge you $35. That's just a service that we offer. If you can opt out of it, so you don't get that, so we will not pay it, we will return it. But that's just something that you are allowed to opt into if you so be.
Another overdraft service is called the overdraft line of credit, which is like a revolving line of credit, almost like a credit card, but you apply for it. It's a loan product. So you would fill out a credit application, you'd be approved for a certain amount, say $500, whatever, and that when your account went overdrawn, it would advance you the amount to cover that check into your checking account, but then that starts the line of credit ticking at an interest rate assigned to that overdraft line of credit. So you pay an amount of interest for that transfer, and as long as you had an outstanding balance on that line of credit, you would be there would be a daily interest amount charged until you pay it off. That is a cheaper way to get items paid that overdraw your account, as opposed to the $35 an item amount. So you can also have money if you have a savings account and a checking account. You can set up a service that if you overdraw your checking account, it takes it from your savings account automatically. So that's another type of overdraft service that is a very popular one too, that is a good way to make sure everything gets paid and the money gets transferred automatically without you having to do it.
So there's again, going into a bank to open up a checking account, there's a lot more to it than just, oh, I'd like a checking account. We'll ask you questions about what are you doing with the checking account, what's your lifestyle, do you write a lot of checks, do you not write checks, do you have direct deposit? So we'll ask questions to gather information so we can help make recommendations that might best suit your situation. Okay?
So what goes hand in hand with when you're setting up accounts and when you're determining expenses and what you're gonna have to pay out of it, it speaks to the topic of budgeting. You should have a budget, a monthly, yearly, whatever, however you wanna do it, of what you are spending versus what you have coming in. In your packet on page 9, it goes into that, developing a budget.
And we have on page 20 and 21, there's a budget worksheet. And one of the things to do is, you sit down and, I mean, I'm good for doing this always in the beginning of the year. Okay, I'm gonna get it together this year, we're gonna write everything down, and I actually, for this past year, I did an Excel spreadsheet, and every month I put in what I paid. And that really helps you realize, like, oh my gosh, I spent so much money on all these Prime TV and Amazon Prime, like, what am I spending all this money on? Netflix, HBO Max, ESPN Zone. I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of TV for somebody that doesn't really watch much TV. So it helps you realize, do I really need all these things? And you can start taking things out. But until you really sit down and put it in black and white, you're not going to see what you're spending money on. Like you may say, like, my dry cleaner bill is crazy, or my food bill is astronomical. Sometimes maybe making a food list or planning your menu before you just go wandering the aisles of the supermarket helps you get your food bill down. But making a budget is very, very important, because before you know it, you're looking at your checking account going, gosh, there's like nothing left. What did I spend all my money on? And that is very beneficial. You know what you have coming in if you have your primary income from your job. That's what you're going to put as your income. But you have to make sure your expenses don't exceed that. And you'd also like to be able to save for a rainy day. They say the best thing to do is have 3 months of reserves. So you should have 3 months of savings in case you lose your job or something happens. Having 3 months of financial reserves is important because things come up. We have pandemics where people lose their job, and all of a sudden they're like, how am I going to buy food? How am I going to get this? Those are things that are very important. But creating the budget, like I said, if you look at page 2021, that'll show you how you can write down a budget. Just fill in those numbers.
So
makes it a little easier. Go ahead.
And as you're putting your budget together, and you write everything down, you're going to want to, as Fran said, eliminate maybe, or maybe increase what you're spending on certain things. So you really have to look at what is a need and what is a want. And I just passed out a chart that has various categories of, is it a need or is it a want? So you could go down that and...
Your cell phone, we'll throw this out.
Yep.
Cell phone. How many of us have a cell phone? Pretty much everybody. Is that a need? Yeah, nowadays it probably is a need. Years ago it wasn't, it was just a want. But nowadays that's your primary source for communication. A lot of people don't have house phones anymore. Sneakers. Yeah, shoes. It's shoes, like we could say shoes or sneakers. Shoes, or do we have to have the Nike Pro Max for $300? I don't know. I don't think that's but Xbox, I think that's a want. Getting our nails done.
Some people.
That's just where I'm going. So again, but you can budget for things if you know you can afford it. If you can afford to get your nails done before you're going out to an event, that's something you would do. Can you afford to get it done every week? No, I can't. So that's something to look at. What is a need versus a want? And when you really take a look at your lifestyle, you realize, oh, I spend a lot of stuff on stuff I don't need. So
It's good to keep track, it's like Fran alluded to earlier, keeping track of what you spend, because money can go out so quickly, and you have forgotten what you've spent it on. If you keep some sort of record, even if you look at your statement, your bank statement, because on your accounts, you're gonna see your statement on your phone, you're gonna get a statement in the mail, or both. You know, write on that what you spent your money on, so you can kind of keep track, so you can budget accordingly to your needs.
but it is important to look at your statement, pay attention to what you're spending. Also, when you have a debit card, I find a lot of people just they just say, well, load my debit card, just put money on the debit card. Like, how many kids say to their mother, you just put money on my card, put money on my card. It's an account, you're keeping track of your account. They'll just use that money and not have any concept of what they're spending. And that McDonald's Coke adds up, or that fast food or ordering food adds up. So be conscious of it, because when you don't have cash, how many of us, if we have cash in our pocketbook, are less likely to spend the cash than we would just use a debit card? Like, people just go like, I'll just swipe that, because you're not thinking. But if I have to look at what's in my pocketbook and say, oh, I'm not spending that, that's all I have left, makes a big difference. So be conscious of that.
And nowadays, all the debit cards have that lovely tap. You know, if you have a tap card, it makes it even easier to spend money.
Yeah.
It's just, you go, beep. And even at the gas station, you don't even have to put in your PIN,
No.
personal identification number. So, yeah, it's very easy to spend money. So, but yeah, so putting that budget together is definitely a key piece of making sure you're monitoring your income and able to pay your bills and able to keep your bills and everything from being past due. And that's also helping your credit history and your credit score, which is another side topic to all this financial literacy.
But it is important to know, like, you know, start young. A lot of you guys are young in here. Start young, because before you know it, you're going to be 60 and say, oh my gosh, where did all my money go? I've got this saved up, and I'm going to want to retire soon. Save now. If it's out of sight, out of mind, don't spend it, put it away. When you're 60-something years old, you're going to be happy you have a nest egg. So work on that. Say, you know what, I need to make it a goal to save a certain amount for the year. And you will find, if you get rid of the frivolous expenditures that you don't need, you'll be able to put more money away.
And another good place to put money for the future and for retirement is an individual retirement account, IRA, which banks offer those as well. And there are a few different kinds, but retirement funds are protected. And if you open an IRA account, you're not supposed to touch the money until you're 59 and a half, but there are benefits to your taxes. You can defer taxes on that so that you pay less taxes in the short term, as far as at the end of the year when you file your taxes. That it would be a traditional IRA. There is something called a Roth IRA that is tax-free. That if you put money into a Roth IRA, it is tax-free. Now again, you have to keep those funds in there until you're 59 and a half to access them, but once you do, it's tax-free.
But it's a good way to force savings, get the tax benefits on it. And you know, some of you, I'm sure, with your jobs at work may have a company match on a 401k. Those are good. If you have a company that you work for and they offer a 401k, sign up, because many of them will do a match, and that's free money. You know, if you're not getting it, and don't look at it. Don't look at it, because everybody's like, oh, the market went down. It only goes down if you sell it. So it'll go back, it'll bounce back up, but don't look at it all the time and say, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so worried. It'll grow, just let it sit there and just keep putting more money into it. Especially if the market has gone down, now is the time to put money into it because it's low. It'll go back up. Okay?
Fran's exactly right. If you work for a company, is to your benefit to put in the maximum amount that you can if your company matches it, yes, yes. If you don't have a 401K or something like that, an IRA is a great product to open for you to have, you're setting aside money for your retirement yourself. So, and of course, 401Ks are typically mutual funds, which are the market, which it's like Fran said, don't look at it.
Don't look at it.
Don't look at it now.
Yeah.
Maybe when the market comes back up.
Right, it'll be happy.
But if you put your money in an IRA in a bank, you're never gonna lose money. You're never gonna lose money.
Right.
You're
And
gonna-
depending on how rates are, like right now, we have a good rate on a variable rate CD for an IRA, so.
It's paying
those are
4.08.
Yeah,
APY, yeah.
so it's a good option for, an IRA.
Yes,
Can you open up a Roth IRA for your child? Or no?
You have to be 18, right?
yeah. Unless you did some sort of like educational IRA, which is a different thing. It's really more for educational purposes for your child, but yeah. So.
But you can do a CD, like you could just do a regular CD for your child, that would be savings. And a CD is a time deposit, so it's in for a certain amount of time. If you did it for 2 years, then it would roll over. But it's a good way to get a higher interest because it's being held.
I think that like there are children who have earned income, and anyone with earned income, even if they're 10 years old, they can do an IRA.
If you have earned income, I don't believe not for a Roth, and I don't know if a traditional you can. I thought you had to be 18.
Yeah,
I thought it was for anyone with earned income.
Oh, I'll check on that.
I don't know either. I know at the bank, we require you to be 18, so I don't know if that's like every bank.
Like I
or-
know,
so
yeah. Some businesses will set up their, like, if I own a business and I can employ my children to get the tax benefits of paying them to do, that's considered their earned income. But I don't know, I'll find that out. I'll get your number and I'll let you know, but I'm not sure.
So I have like a little savings account for my child, like under my account.
Mhm.
What's the difference between that and a CD account like you just mentioned?
Okay, so a CD is a certificate of deposit. It's a time deposit. So that typically will earn a higher interest rate based on, a lot of them are tiered based on balances. But because you're logging it in, if you have it just in a savings account, you can take it out when you want. In a CD, if you take it out early, there's a penalty, usually 3 months interest. But if you know you're not gonna touch it, that's the purpose of it, it's always good to put it in there. We have some CDs that are, right now we just did a 15-month CD that's earning 3% with 1 withdrawal, no penalty. So, say somebody put the money in to the CD and then in 6 months they said, you know what, I need that money for something. They can close that CD or take whatever they need out of it without a penalty. So, but that's earning a higher rate than just your savings account is. So, you want to watch, like a lot of people just put their money in a savings account and think like, oh, it's in there. But you want to watch and see what you're earning on your CDs, on your savings accounts, and look for something that is going to offer you a better rate to earn money. I mean,
The main thing on those CDs is it's a term, 12 months, 24 months, 15 months,
Right.
60 months. You can put the money away and not think about it,
Right.
to let it earn as much interest as possible,
right.
yes.
But like I said, the ones that we're offering right now, we have some that are just truly time deposit, and then we have these CDs that are 1 withdrawal with no penalty.
Which means it's like a savings account, you can get to it at any time
Mm-hmm.
without any penalty.
So,
Something to think about.
on the 500
To start,
to start, yep.
and then when does it start to,
What earns interest right away.
Yep.
okay,
But if you needed, so the 15 month, if you opened it up today, which is December 15th, it would be December, January, March 15th of 2024 is when it would either roll over to another 15 months, or you could take the money out. Or if you need it beforehand, you can do 1 withdrawal. So say you had $1,000 in it and you need 200, you could take $200 out with no penalty. But if you needed you 200 again, you'd get a penalty. Or you can just close it and reopen another. And again, if you're ever questioning or you're not sure, ask us, that's what we're there for. Absolutely. Okay, emergency fund, I think we touched on that, emergency fund. Try and put some money away to have for an emergency. Your washing machine breaks, your car breaks down. Have some money put away so that if that happens, you can handle the situation. We'd like to all think that we're never gonna run into that, but it happens.
So as you develop your relationship with your bank, we love it for it to be us, sure you're not a bank, but as you develop your relationship with your bank, with a checking account, with a savings account, with a CD, with an IRA maybe, that is helping you build your credit history, as I said. It's helping you build that relationship so that when you say want to go buy a car, you could come to the bank and fill out a loan application and get a loan to buy a vehicle or a boat or a house and have the loan, have the bank lend you the money. So you want to be very careful in how you handle your accounts and how you save your money and build that down payment amount. How you use your debit card. And as far as getting credit from a bank, getting a loan, the bank will look at your credit report to see what you owe, what other loans you might have, how you've paid those loans, the length of time you've had credit. So it is a good idea to start building credit. And there are some ways you can do that. You can get a loan from the bank and have it be secured by a savings account or a CD. If you have no credit at all, if you put $500 or $1,000 into a savings account or CD and then get a loan for $1,000 against that, pay it back over a year, and that builds credit. And the next time,
Right. It starts to build up your credit report, and that's important because when you do go to buy a house, they're going to say, well, you have no credit, or, oh, she does have credit and she paid her bills on time. That's what your credit report will show you. You also, your credit report, when you're applying for a loan, they want to make sure that your debt, your total debt to what you make, your income, is at a good ratio. If you have too much debt and not enough income, they're going to say, she can never, how are they going to pay this loan back? They don't have enough money. So it's very important, you get everybody will see it. A no interest financing on a credit card, or you get this credit card, you're at Lowe's and they're like, oh, would you like to buy that? We can do no interest financing for a year, and next thing you know, you've bought paint, you've bought blinds, you've bought new flooring, and you had, because it's all on a credit card, you're not worrying about it. But now your credit card's built up there, and you have to make payments and you're paying interest on those, which is a high interest rate. That's debt. That is still debt, even though you have a credit card for it. All these credit cards that they offer you, you're going broke trying to save money because they're giving you a discount. It's crazy. So be very, very careful when you sign up to get a credit card. Know what you're getting. Okay? Every time I go to a store and I get like, ooh, I'll get 20% off if I get this credit card, I just say I'm going to go broke saving money. I'm not doing it. You just don't want to. It can become overwhelming. It's enticing. So that's what marketing is.
you have to manage it. And if you have a credit card, and it's good to have at least one, because you never know when you're going to have an emergency, that if you have a credit card, make sure you pay it off every month. Don't buy more during the month that you can't pay it off fully that month.
Right. When you're standing at the counter, can I pay this off at the end of the month?
Right.
Because it is good if you get those discounts, but you have to know that you can pay it off.
Right. So they're not bad to have as long as you're paying them off every month. And that is building that credit score, making your credit score go up and look good. It's building your credit history. It's providing for your future. So it all kind of works hand in hand. And you have to protect your credit and your history and how you're handling your banking relationship and your financial relationship by keeping everything very confidential. Very confidential. You do not share your debit card. You do not share your PINs. Do not share your personal identification numbers with other people. There are a lot of online scams, a lot of perpetrators out there that are trying to get to people's money in various ways, and you need to protect your identity as far as who you're giving your social security number to, who you're giving account numbers
And
to.
if people are calling your house or calling yourself or calling your number and saying you owe this money, take their number and tell them you'll call them back. Because there was a lot of scams of people just calling and people panic and think like, oh my God, I better pay this, it's gonna ruin my credit. Well, next thing you know, I mean, we have a lot of people that will come in and say, somebody just called me and they said they were the IRS and I gave them my social security number and I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. So you have to be very, very careful on what information you give out. You always ask, give me your number and I'll call you back. Because the IRS isn't calling you, they're gonna send a letter.
And the bank is not gonna call you. And a bank that is, a good bank that is your bank, will not call you and say, what is your social security number? What is your account number? They're not going to do that. So if someone's calling you, asking you for information, it's hang up and say, send me something in the mail. Mail me something and I'll reply to you, or whatever.
And also, if somebody does call, I mean, if you were to call the bank, we're not giving you, unless, we'll verify that it's you. What's your last word of your social? What was your last deposit? Where do you live? To confirm that it's you. We're not gonna give information out about accounts unless we can verify who we're speaking to. So.
And be very careful when you're ordering things online. There are a lot of unsecure websites or unsecure sites that you order something that looks really good and you sign up for it and then hackers or some...
Especially on social media.
Yes, yes. Be very confident that you're at a secure website that, is not something that's gonna put you at risk. Because we do get that too, where people have ordered things online and then they start getting debited every day, or they start getting debits from other places that they didn't authorize, and that is definitely on the increase now in today's society. So,
Just another note on the credit reports, a couple of helpful tips to obtain and keep a good credit score. Pay your bills on time, every time. Don't just pay the minimum amounts, pay more if you can afford to. Don't get close to your credit limit. Credit limit's 1,000, don't bring it to 999. Keep it small and then pay it off every month. Don't apply for a lot of credit in a short amount of time. When you're car shopping, don't let them run your credit report until you know that's the car you want. A lot of times you'll get pressured into it and they'll be like, we'll just fill out this application and next thing you know they run your credit and then that's not the car you want, you go somewhere else, you're gonna run it again. That doesn't look good, it's running your credit too many times. Check your credit report once a year. You're entitled to a free credit report every year. So take a look at it, see, because there could be things on there that are not yours. There could be things on there that have been paid that you didn't, that they're not showing as paid.
and in your packet tells you how to get an annual credit report, and the contact information is in the packet.
The other thing is, if you're running into a financial issue where you can't make payments, talk to your creditor. Some people are just like, if I don't talk to you, it'll go away by itself. It doesn't, it'll get worse. Just talk to them and set up a payment schedule. They are always willing to work with you, rather than you default. Okay. So to go a little bit about identity theft. Anybody ever been a victim of identity theft here? You have, not good, is it? No, it's scary. So don't give out your personal information. Don't, your mail, when you get mail, make sure you pick up your mail and shred documents. Don't just toss it in the trash. People go through trash looking for things. select passwords that are difficult. I know it's hard to remember all the different passwords we have, but change your passwords frequently also. That's important because scammers can see patterns that go in your computer. I mean, unless you're having your computer cleaned every year, people can hack into your computer. You want to make sure that you're changing your passwords often. Add extra layers of security like two-factor authentication on your bank accounts. Most online banking will have two-factor. They'll ask you, your access ID password. They may ask you security questions also to get into the system.
And that is the purpose of that. You may have noticed if those of you who have a bank account and do online banking or app banking, that every now and then it'll ask you one of your security questions, or send you a code, and then you have to put the code in. That's the multi-factor identification program that is trying to make sure you are who you are. So that's the reason for all of that. And as far as alluding back to like different scams that are out there are scams out there where you will get a check in the mail that says you've won this money and go deposit it. And then let whoever sent it to you, let them know you've deposited it, and then they want you to wire money, and they're going to wire your money back or something along those lines.
Don't do it.
Take that check to the bank and get that branch manager to look at it.
Right.
If you have any question. You're not going to get something for nothing.
Right.
So question everything.
Also, if you're selling things online and all of a sudden you get, send me a Google code and to make sure you're legitimate. A lot of that is scams. They're just trying to set you up and they'll take advantage of you. So be very, very careful when you're with anybody you don't know that's trying to send you money. We've seen a lot where I had somebody come in one time, this is my old bank up in New Jersey. They came in and he said, I sold this mattress, and the guy sent me a check for more than the mattress was worth, so he said to wire the money back to him. So I did, right away, I wired the money back to him. Well, what happened was the guy put the check in and then wired the money back to him. Well, the check was bad. So now that guy was out $1,100.
Okay.
So those are things that happen. You just have to, it's
Had a customer came in, and I've seen this also, where they got a check in the mail, or they were contacted and they were told to go buy gift cards at different area places, from CVS or Walgreens or whatever. Here's this check, go buy gift cards, put this in your account, go buy gift cards, send me the gift cards, and then I'm going to pay you a percentage, like $500. The whole thing's a scam.
Right.
The check's a fraud, but the person on the receiving end, that's the perpetrator, the criminal, is getting these gift cards. That's another one that's prevalent. Another one is, this might be for older people that have been getting that. They'll get a phone call saying your grandson is in jail and you need to wire money right away, or to get him out of jail. And older people have come in and done
I'm his
that.
friend. Yeah, I had a lady that stood there and she got very angry at us because we were saying, what are you doing with this money? She's taking cash out. She's like, it's my money, it's none of your business, and we're just protecting you. Ended up, she went to the parking lot, gave it to some kid. Ended up it was a scam. So
I've had another one that got a call. There's a warrant out for your arrest. If you don't send money right away, you're going to be arrested. You could go to jail for 20 years. We know what you've done. We know that you stole money, or we know that you did this or that. And the customers would come to the bank and try to get money out because they're afraid and they haven't even done anything, but they still believe
they're just
this
so
call.
afraid, right?
They're just so scared because they say they're from the IRS, or they're from the the feds or whatever, Federal Reserve or whatever.
So just be careful who you're talking to. Don't give your information to anybody. If somebody sends you a check that you don't know and they say, oh, I need the money back, say, well, when the check clears, I'll send you the money.
Right.
Or you can come pick the money up. I'm not saying.
And you can always go into the bank and talk to someone, one of the managers, to verify or help you appease your fear or appease your, anxiety about whatever, the situation is. Ask a banker.
Yeah.
So.
But the other thing is no matter where you bank, get to know the people that are watching your money. Build a relationship with the bank. They're there to help you. They're help to guide you and answer questions. we're not gonna tell you, no, we can't help you with that. We have a lot of people that will just come in and ask questions on, I'm not sure what to do. Well, sit on a phone call. You know, if you have your elderly parents or whatever, and they're not sure what to do, and you're trying to help them, just sit in with, call us. We can sit with you and go over things with them. All right?
Are there any
Questions or? The packets are here, and we have more packets upstairs. There's some pens and
Yep.
things, free things up here. Help yourselves. And if you have any questions, like you said, we're just right here in by
Yeah.
Marlboro.
Both ends of Easton.